This is a book. I don't know which edition or copy this is. It's the Broadway Books copy by Random House. It was written in 2012, and yeah, it's a good book. It's not very long. It's about 415 pages. The print is not super tiny, but it's not huge, so it's not like it's a substantially sized book. It's not a difficult read. It's a nice, easy read if you are out on the beach or if you're traveling. It's an entertaining book, so it's perfect for when you have to kill some time. It's first person, and it's written from the perspective of Nick Dunn and then from the perspective of Amy Dunn. The book is split into 3 different parts. Part 1 is basically Amy Elliott Dunn's diary entries. Part 2 and Part 3 is when it splits between Amy and Nick and their perspectives on her going missing. Because the book is written in first person narrative, the narration is obviously biased. You're reading an unreliable narrator. Because it's not a third-person omniscient narration. It's from the perspectives of the 2 villains, the 2 bad guys, to the 2 heroes, the 2 main characters. The book is set in Carthage, Missouri in 2012, I think, which is the childhood home of the main character, Nick Dunn. And another setting from the book is New York City, prior to the financial crisis, 2008 and before that. 2010, 2011 is when the book takes place, and there's some part of the book takes place before Nick and Amy's marriage, which is before 2008, and I think it's in 2006 or 2005 when they get married, and they move to Missouri after the 2008 financial crisis, and they're there for 2 years or 3 years when the narration. The book takes place in the span of a summer, I think the summer of 2010, between June and August or September, and Amy goes missing, I think the 4th of July or the day before that, which is their anniversary. And characters. There are 2 main characters, Nick and Amy Dunn. Amy Elliott Dunn is probably the coolest villain I've ever read. She is a huge product of nurture, and she's also a product of nature. So the book isn't a completely naturalist piece of literary work, but it definitely takes into account the nurturing aspect of her childhood development. So Amy Elliott Dunn is very finely shaped by her experiences and her perceptions of her parents and how her parents want her to be. So her parents wrote this book series called Amazing Amy, and basically it's a carbon copy of their daughter, except the more perfected version. And because Amy grew up with the perfect version of her literary counterpart, she has a lot of issues with being perfect and dealing with perfection, so she often tries to live up to the perfect version of Amy Elliott Dunn, or Amy Elliott, and that's her Amazing Amy character. And her parents she described it as public humiliation. Its parents are not the best parents, and they kind of bullied their daughter into being the person that she is. They have very high expectations for her, and she's always trying to reach those expectations, but she falls short of them every time, and she feels like a failure, even though she's a very accomplished character. She went to Harvard University, and I think she studied psychology. She grew up in an upper middle class neighborhood with an upper middle class lifestyle. She went to boarding school in Connecticut or something. So she's very tailored, prim, proper, privileged character, and very sheltered. She's vindictive. She's a villain. She's not your favorite character. She's very naive. She thinks that she's much smarter than she really is, and she's not as resourceful or creative as some others would be. She definitely looks down upon people she deems as less than her, which is everyone she meets, every character. She has a very grand sense of self, and that is not her downfall, unfortunately, but it's still one of her biggest flaws. Like, also, just she's a perfectionist and she just can't let certain things go. So those aspects of her personality, plus how she grew up and the environment that she grew up in, really shaped the person that she is. Nick Dunn is the opposite. He's very easygoing and he's relaxed. He's handsome, he's lazy, he kind of lies a lot. Actually, both characters lie. Amy lies for dramatic effect. Nick lies so that he doesn't have drama. It's the opposite with them. He tries to avoid issues and problems, and he's very chill. He doesn't like confrontation, and that's part of the reason why he gets himself into the situation that he is in. And Nick is stoic to a point to where people like perceive him to be a much bigger jerk than he actually is. He has a lot of emotions and turmoil, but they all bubble underneath the surface, and that harms him. So we have this very type A personality and a very relaxed personality coming together. The opposites attract. However, another theme that this book kind of lightly touches on, I think, not lightly, but it's like the dual personality kind of theme, where you have yourself and then you have the person that you project onto other people. And this book is definitely it definitely shows the dual personalities. Amy Elliott Dunn, very much dual personality, so much so that she has this whole like monologue, I think it's on page 222, where she talks about like who she really is, and it's freaky. It's 222. Yes, it starts on page 222. And so it's the very beginning of part 2, and Amy is basically giving her unadulterated thoughts on things, on romance and marriage and issues and everything. And this was like a very defining part of the book for me, for when I read Amy. And so I read this and I didn't like her character. Like, I didn't like her as like a hero, or I appreciated her character after I read this. It's very telling, it's very true, it strikes true, and I feel like this is the kind of writing that makes people identify with the characters, and Gillian Flynn did a really good job in doing that in this section, because it's all very like stereotypical, but there's a little bit of truth to it, and it really connects the writer to the reader. And one of the feminist parts, I guess. So Amy and Nick are they don't have dual personality. Well, Amy more or less has dual personalities. Nick has 2 different faces. I highly, highly recommend this book. I think you should read it. I think you'll enjoy it. And tune in next time, because I'm going to be talking about the film and comparing the film to the book and giving like a similar analysis. If you have any suggestions on which books you'd like me to review and analyze, comment below, and I will look at your suggestions and see which ones are interesting. I'm considering doing Orwell next. I love Orwell, so maybe Animal Farm, or I hate this book, but it's like, I think it's called Keep the Expeditious Flying. I didn't like it. It's basically like, what is that one with Holden Caulfield? It's basically like that book, but like the English like 1930s version of that. It's actually really boring. It's not my favorite, but it's a decent, like, I kept reading it because I wanted to know what happened. Or maybe we can do 1984. Depends. Let me know what you guys have, what you guys think I should do. And I will probably be doing, or maybe I'll do The Art of War. But next week for sure will be, or the next video will absolutely be the cinematic review of Gone Girl. Thanks for watching. Like and comment below, and if you're not subscribed, please subscribe to my channel to get more reviews and analysis on books and films.